At about 1845, on 8th of May 2021, during cargo discharge operations whilst alongside in Koh Si Chang, Thailand, the chief mate of marine vessel Leng Gumigileng remotely opened two ballast valves adjacent to the number 2 water ballast pump to gravitate seawater into the number 1 water ballast tank when suddenly the engine room bilge alarm sounded, and the duty motorman found seawater flooding into the space through the opening casing of number 2 water ballast pump. Repair work had been started on number 2 water ballast pump, but the suction line had not been blanked off. The motorman immediately sounded the general emergency alarm and informed the third engineer, who in turn called the chief engineer and master.
Foxtrot, this is Delta. Over.
Delta, this is Foxtrot, over.
Foxtrot, this is Delta. There's a seawater flooding into the engine room through the open casing of number 2 water ballast pump. Over.
Delta, this is Foxtrot. What is the water level and condition of the pumps?
Foxtrot, this is Delta. About 1 meter above the bottom plates and several of our electric motors were damaged by water ingress. Over.
Delta, this is Foxtrot. Affirmative. Proceed to master station and I'll inform the chief engineer. Out. Chief, our oiler informed me that there's an engine room flooding with 1 meter above. The bottom plates and several of our electric motors were damaged by the water ingress. I told oiler to get out of the engine room and proceed to master station.
For sure the motors are damaged due to water ingress. Our generator will be affected. It's good that our oiler developed situational awareness. Excellent as well for telling him to proceed immediately to master station for safety. So, what is the cause of the problem?
It was through the open casing of number 2 water ballast pump that was under maintenance.
Affirmative. Please stand by as I inform the chief mate to stop the ballast operation and inform the second engineer for handling the generators. The chief engineer immediately went to the ballast control room and told the chief mate to stop ballasting. The chief mate closed all the ballast valves and the inflow of seawater stopped. Chief mate, there's an engine room flooding while we are doing ballast operation.
Repeat what you say. I cannot understand you.
I said, there's an engine room flooding, so you need to stop ballast operation.
Okay, sir. I stop it. I stop it. The trim list is still in stable condition.
After that, the chief engineer gathered the engine crew and discussed the allocation, assignment, and prioritization of the resources on board the vessel in order to control the flood. Segundo, check our diesel generators and as well as its pumps if it can work in order to supply necessary power to other pumps to pump out the flood. Also, ensure that emergency generator is working properly just in case that the diesel generator can't be operated. Make sure to run the emergency fire pump in case blackout occurs to provide immediate cooling and easy startup to generators.
Yes, sir.
Third, you are the flood control leader. Ensure to transfer the seawater flood to after peak tank using submersible pump and hoses. Check as well how many electrical damaged motors and report it to me immediately.
Acknowledge, sir.
Fourth, monitor our fuel tanks if there is accumulation of water. Oiler, pumpman, fitter, and wiper ensure to give the appropriate support and help to our engineers in their assigned duties.
Si, senor.
Alright, we can do this. I will be doing a public address to inform everyone. Safety first is our priority here, so protect yourself all the time and keep the line of communication constant. God bless us all. The chief engineer used the ship's public address system to inform the rest of the crew about the flooding. Attention please, attention please. This is your chief engineer with an important announcement. I repeat, this is your chief engineer with an important announcement. We have an engine room flooding with a water level of 1 meter above the bottom plates. For safety reasons, we request all crew to go to their master station and wait there for their further instructions. The ship's damage control team is fighting the flooding, and we also have radio contact with other ships and other radio coast stations.
Aba, Ginoong Maria, napupuno ka ng grasya. Mahal ko pa ang mga asawa at anak ko. Paano na yung tuition ni Junjun? Paano na yung babae ko sa Malate? Paano na si Sir nabibigyan ko pa ng $200? Hindi ko pa tapos hulugan yung Lamborghini ko. Yung bahay ko sa second floor, hindi pa tapos.
As soon as I have further information, I will make another announcement. I ask you kindly to remain calm. There is no danger at this time.
Oh, thank God! There is no danger, said the chief engineer. We must all remain calm, guys.
Based on the inspection, the flood water had damaged the cooling water pump for the main generators, and by 1800s, the chief engineer stopped the main generators, causing the ship to black out. The emergency generator started automatically, and cargo operations were also stopped. Upon the instruction made by chief engineer, at 1845, engineers removed the after-peak water ballast tank manhole cover and began to pump the water from the engine room into the after-peak tank using a submersible pump and hoses. The chief engineer also instructed fourth engineer together with oiler to monitor and check the bunker tanks for seawater accumulation through sounding. By 2035, about 92 cubic meters of water had been transferred to the after-peak tank. The emergency fire pump was started and used to supply cooling water to the number 1 main generator. The crew started to clean the engine room and check the operation of all motors and pumps. A total of 22 electric motors located around the lower levels of the engine room had been damaged by the water ingress. At about this time, after everything is settled, the chief engineer informed the master regarding the updates and condition in controlling the engine room flooding. Then, the master contacted the ship's local agent and requested technical assistance with the damaged electric motors. Lastly, the master made a public address to inform all the crew about the condition of controlling the flood.
This is your captain speaking. I have an announcement. The flooding is now under control. I repeat, the flooding is now under control. Rest assured that no time we will resume to our normal operation.
Thank God. Thank you, Chief, Captain, and to all. You survived and combated the engine room flooding. I'm proud of all you guys. I love you all.
It was a great plan led by our chief engineer and captain. Kudos to the team's effort as well.
Haha, of course. It was a team effort that led us to secure the safety of everyone and of the ship. I am really grateful to all your cooperation.
Indeed, a clear and effective communication as well as established that is why a perfect execution of the plan made by yours truly chief engineer that made it possible. Kudos.
Me is proud and happy that we alive.
At 2100s, the ship's power was restored and cargo operations were resumed. At 0500 on 9th of May, the transfer of about 390 cubic meters of water from the engine room to the after peak tank was completed. At 8:25, two technicians from ashore attended the ship to assist with removing, drying, and reconditioning the damaged electric motors. On 11th of May, the cargo discharge was completed, and at about 2200s on 12th of May, marine vessel Leng Gumigileng departed from Koh Sichang, Thailand. Story or reason behind the incident. On May 8, 2021, during the discharge operations alongside the port in Koh Sichang, Thailand, in about 1845, the MV Leng Gumigileng was flooded about 390 cubic meters of seawater to the engine room. The valves to the number 2 water ballast pump were remotely opened from the ballast control room. The pump had been opened and being overhauled, so its casing was left open during that time. The discharge line from the pump had been blank also, but not the suction line to the pump. Due to the misunderstanding or poor communication, the chief mate had opened the valves to add seawater to the number 1 water ballast tank. Although the chief engineer already sent an advice to the chief mate not to run the water ballast pump number 2 because it is being overhauled with a blank flange to the discharge line, the chief mate assumed he can still open the valve in any ballast system without asking the chief engineer for further information. Instead of using the valves related to the water ballast pump number 1, which can also be used to add seawater to the ballast tanks, the chief mate still used the valves that are related to the water ballast pump number 2. Preventive measures. Contributing safety factors. During the maintenance and repair of the pumps, the suction side of the pumps must also be blanked off, and it must be isolated in order to avoid any necessary problem and for the safety operations. And during the maintenance of the pumps, the deck representatives must be informed about the machinery that is being repaired in order for them to be aware about the situation. They must be well informed about the situation for the guidance to establish another alternate operation of ballasting. The work permits of the maintenance and repair of the pump should be complete. And put a danger sign, lockout, tagout, don't operate the machinery is under maintenance, not only to water ballast pump number 2, but also to ballast control panel to prevent remote starting. And lastly, have proper communication with each other and understand its perspectives in order to avoid miscommunication and misunderstanding.